Welcome everyone to the 2020 APAC Groundbreakers virtual tour by APACO UC. This year, your event will be the biggest one ever done, with 174 sessions, including normal sessions, workshops, and hands-on labs, from 123 different speakers over 11 days. Also, it will cover sessions on 4 different languages. Please remember to register to as many sessions you can, and all sessions will be available to replay as many times as you want for 2 weeks after the initial session date and time. You can also interact with the speaker at any time during that 2 weeks by posting questions or comments directly in the playback session page. I would like to say thanks to all Oracle user groups and Java user groups that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, Oracle Groundbreakers and CloudDB. Now for today's session, Oracle Visual Builder, an introduction by Shay Schmelzer. Please feel free to make any questions at any time during the session by using the Q&A option in the Zoom webinar, and Shay will be answering all questions at the end of the session. If you have any technical issues or need to contact me, Francisco, as the moderator, please feel free to do so by using the chat option on the Zoom webinar. That means, remember, any questions for Shay, please use the Q&A option, and Shay will be answering our questions at the end of the session. Now, without any more delays, I would like to leave you with this amazing session by Shay Schmelzer. Shay, I'm stop sharing my screen now, and I'm giving you the control.
Hey everyone. Good morning or good evening or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Shai Schmelzer. I'm Director of Product Management for the Oracle Development Tools, or the Cloud Development Tools. Our group is basically the group that builds development tools that are being used both internally inside Oracle by our development teams, as well as by our customers to build their applications. And of course, on our side, it's to build our own applications. And in today's session, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to Oracle Visual Builder, which is our latest development tool. We'll do a technical product overview. Most of the session is going to be an actual demo of how you build an application, but I'll start with a few slides that will introduce you to what the product does. Okay, I'm mostly going to demo things that are currently in production, but just in case I may mention anything that has to do with the future direction, we need to have this slide up front. All right, so what is Visual Builder? Visual Builder is an environment or a development platform that allows you to rapidly create and extend web and mobile applications using a visual development approach, a visual development environment. The development environment is also integrated with aspects of collaborative development, version control, continuous delivery automation. So the whole DevOps platform is integrated very well with the visual development platform. Visual Builder is also not just the development platform, it's also the hosting platform. So once you create the application, you don't need anything else beyond the Visual Builder that you get to host the application and run it. And the hosting means both the web application, and I'll also show you it can also host data for your application in a built-in database that comes with Visual Builder. In the screenshots, you're seeing the visual development for mobile application, but I'll show you that you can do the same type of visual development for a web application as well. Those are kind of 5 things to know about Visual Builder, okay, the key capabilities. So the first thing to mention is that Visual Builder is a cloud-native tool. And when we say cloud-native, I mean that this is not a tool that Oracle had in the on-premise days. It's a tool that was built from the ground up for the cloud. Okay, it's only available as a cloud solution, and it uses the latest technologies that are associated with cloud technologies or with cloud platforms, which means that the user interface is built using HTML5 and JavaScript, and it talks through REST interfaces, the backend, and the backend can be anything, any functions or serverless capability, or maybe your Java EE application or your database, anything that exposes REST, we can talk to from our user interface. Okay, so we're based on the latest technology, bring you the latest approach for developing web and mobile interfaces. Second point to mention here is ease of use. Okay, ease of use is very important to us because that's kind of our value proposition for you. We aim to allow you to develop your application faster by providing you with a lot of visual and declarative capabilities in the development cycle. Okay, you'll see in the development demo that most of what I'll be doing will be done through dragging and dropping, setting properties, arranging things on a page visually, defining business logic visually, again, trying to reduce the amount of manual coding that you need to do. That being said, we are creating actual code. We are creating HTML code, we are creating JavaScript code, we are creating REST mapping that is defined in JSON files. All of those files construct your application and they are always accessible for you, and you can actually modify the files directly, so modify the code directly. And then we provide you with a complete lifecycle platform to manage those files that make up your application. This allows you to work, for example, with large development teams where multiple people are working on the same application at the same time, using Git-based version management, using Git-based branching, merging capabilities, as well as continuous integration and continuous delivery of your application across multiple platforms. So you can create a situation, for example, that when you change your code, when you commit the changes, we automatically take them and deploy them to your QA instance automatically for you. One of the key things that we are focused on is enabling you to extend the Oracle SaaS offering, the Oracle Cloud Applications. Oracle Cloud Applications, that's the Oracle ERP, HCM, CRM, those big applications that Oracle produce. They give you a lot of functionality out of the box, but in some cases you might want to extend them with additional functionality. And this is where Visual Builder comes into the picture. We have specific capabilities we built into the tool to do things like look up at all the data objects that Oracle Cloud Application expose through REST interfaces through a built-in service catalog that we offer, and pick up those and allow you to build new user interfaces on top of them, to take those pieces of data from Oracle Cloud Application and mesh them up with your own pieces of data. We also support single sign-on across a Visual Builder application and Oracle Cloud Application, allowing you to use the same users, the same roles, create situation where you take a Visual Builder application and embed the user interface inside Oracle SaaS pages and don't require additional login. And one more point is that we are using the same technologies and the same look and feel that is being used by Oracle SaaS, including both the older SaaS look and feel, as well as the new modernized Redwood look and feel that you're seeing right now popping up in the new generation of the Oracle Cloud Application. The fifth point that I'll mention over here is about extensibility. Okay, we give you a lot of functionality out of the box in the tool, but the tool is using standard industry technologies, standard JavaScript, HTML, CSS, REST, and you can bring in external component, user interface component, external JavaScript libraries, external REST services, and extend the capabilities of the tool and what we give you out of the box with additional functionality. This also allows you to basically pick up any developer that already knows JavaScript, and they would be very easily able to adapt to the tool and develop in the tool. And if you don't know JavaScript, you'll see that the tool makes it very easy for you to actually build an application that uses JavaScript without actually coding in JavaScript. Again, the main focus of what we're doing is trying to simplify the way that you build application. This means that when you're laying out a page, we'll show you a visual representation of how you build the page. Okay, so you'll actually see the page in what you see is what you get kind of mode. You'll have components that you can drag and position exactly where you want on the page. You can then set properties for those. You can very easily bind those UI components to data. We have visual page flow diagrams. We have visual business logic diagrams. So this is what you see in the lower part of the slide over here, which is basically kind of an algorithm type of representation of your business logic, where you can diagram the flow of your business logic. You can diagram if statement loops, you can diagram calls to REST services, assigning variables. A lot of those type of things can be done, again, visually in your application. And again, we're doing a lot of things in a declarative way. We are able to map to REST services very easily through our catalogs or through their specs or from external tools as well. Okay. And one very important thing to mention here is that not only, again, we're showing you how you can use Visual Builder. One important thing to know is that Visual Builder is actually used inside Oracle by our cloud applications team to develop their next generation of user interfaces, the Redwood-based user interfaces. We have a lot of developers in-house, basically leveraging Visual Builder to build new modules in Oracle SaaS. Some of those modules are also going to allow you to configure the pages that we deliver and modify, for example, the layout of the page, the sequence of fields or the list of fields that you're showing. And to do those configurations, you're also going to be using Visual Builder. Okay, so Visual Builder also becomes the development tool for customers who are using Oracle SaaS to configure applications, not just to extend them. Basically, from Oracle SaaS, you will see the page. You'll be able to click a button to say, I want to configure this page. This page would then be open inside Visual Builder, and you'll be able to select items on the page and configure them visually through Visual Builder. So I wanted to stop here and show you a demo of what Visual Builder is able to do. And I know that we already have some questions on the line. Hopefully the demo would help clarify some of the points, and I'm going to try and answer those later on, specifically about how Visual Builder compares to other development tools you might be familiar with. So one of the things I'll mention here is that Visual Builder comes in two flavors. You can get Visual Builder in terms of the development environment. You can get it as a standalone service, but it's also very well integrated into something we call Visual Builder Studio, which is our overall development platform for teams. Okay, and I did a session yesterday that talks about the Git repositories, the build automation, continuous integration we have here, the issue tracking, the wiki, and all of those capabilities that allow you to manage development process across a big team. I'm going to focus right now on actually building the application, and we'll get potentially later on to how this application then is managed through Visual Builder Studio. But at the end of the day, when you go into Visual Builder, this is what you're going to see. This is our interface. Our new version is based on the Oracle Redwood look and feel. So you can see it's very modernized user interface. And you can see in our welcome page, what can you create? You can create a mobile application. You can create a web application. You connect to REST services to get data from external sources. You can create your own business object to store your own data in them. You can also bring in external components that we have in a component catalog or components that you built. And you can also connect to processes that are running inside the Oracle Integration Cloud Process Cloud Service. Let's start step by step. We'll start with connecting to a service. Okay, so if you have some data somewhere, and this data is exposed as REST service, it doesn't, by the way, have to be your data. You can consume it inside Visual Builder. You simply define a service connection, okay? You'll see that we have 3 ways to add services to our system. One of them is selecting from a catalog, and over here you will see a catalog of our cloud applications. Okay, I'm right now not connected to an environment where there are cloud applications, so this one is empty. The other one is connecting to Oracle Integration Cloud. Oracle Integration Cloud provides a lot of adapters to multiple types of systems, both on-prem and cloud systems that you can get data from and use it inside a Visual Builder user interface. So that's one way. The other way is to define your connection to a service using a description of the service based on OpenAPI or Swagger. For example, if you're using Oracle REST data services, they support OpenAPI, and you can define connection to Oracle REST data services, the ORDS layer, to connect to any existing database. The third option over here is to connect to any random REST service. And I actually have a random REST service. I thought I'll make this demo a little bit topical. So I have here a REST service. I actually don't know what it's developed with. I don't know where the data is stored. All I know is that this is the address for the REST service that gives me information about COVID-19 and the current statistics. So I can basically just paste the URL over here. Okay, I can go over and test this URL to make sure that I actually can get data. And yeah, I can get some live data over here about the statistics. And just by doing those two steps and clicking create, I created a connection to a service over here that I can use. Okay, you can of course rename the service. I'll keep it as V2 for now. It's good enough for me over here. So the next thing you might want to do is go and build some user interface. So let's start by building a web application. I'll just build a basic, call it our COVID-19 app. We already have one of those, so we'll do this, COVID-19. We can have tabs over here. So we'll have a tab for statistics, a tab for doctors. Maybe we just need 2 tabs for now. So we'll just use those 2 and click create. So this actually goes over and creates a web application for me and takes me into the visual designer for our web application. Okay, and this is a visual designer that shows me how my page is going to look like. Okay. Over here on the left, I have a list of UI components I can bring into the page, and you can see there's a lot of components over here. Those components are all based on, those are the Oracle Jet components. Hopefully, most of you heard the word Oracle Jet before. Oracle Jet stands for the Oracle JavaScript Extension Toolkit. It's an open source framework and toolkit that we provide for building JavaScript application. It consists of about 100 UI components that you can use and integrate into pages. Okay, you can again use it freely. Over here, I'm just showing you the Jet components in a nice component palette. The other thing to mention here is that at the end, I have the ability to get additional components, and this would go over to our component catalog, and I'll be able to bring components from here. For example, I have components for Oracle Content and Experience Cloud to look up files, get to directories and work with content, for example. And there are multiple other components over here in our catalog that you can use if you want to. But I'm going to stick with our base component over here, and I'm going to design my page. So for example, I can have a title up here at the top. We'll say this is statistics. Okay, and then I can set the size over here. Maybe we'll bring in a horizontal ruler below that one. And then maybe we need a table component. So let's pick up a table and put it in here. Okay. And maybe, another thing that would be nice to have here is some to show me data. Okay. So again, we have here all our charting capabilities and visualization capabilities, whether it's a picture chart or tag cloud or anything else that you want. So just bring in a bar chart up here at the top. All right, like that. And you can, of course, resize things visually over here. Now, when I'm doing this, what I'm actually creating is the user interface, which is based on HTML. You're seeing everything here done visually, but if you click on the code tab, you would actually see the HTML code, and you can go into the code and you can change it. So for example, if you wanted to say here, just type some other value, this would immediately be reflected here. So you have direct access to the HTML code to manipulate it, to change it. You get a powerful code editor there with code insight, error highlighting, and other capabilities. All right, so we got our page layout. The next thing we want to do is actually connect things to data. Okay, so we can click, for example, on the chart. We have a quick start here that allows us to go over and add data to our application. We'll go to our REST service that we added here and get the latest current statistics. We want to know for each location how many confirmed cases are currently in there. Okay, so this is a quick, again, dialogue way of defining binding between my UI components and data that is coming from some REST service. Now, what you're seeing right now is I'm actually accessing the REST service live, and I'm going to get the data over here to show you the status. And right now, the US is leading in the number of confirmed cases. Okay. Now you can see it's a little hard to see it on the chart, so maybe we'll also add the table and we'll also bind it to data from the REST service over here. So we'll go over here and let's pick up our location. We want to know how many confirmed, how many actives, how many people died, and how many people recovered. All of this in a nice little table over here. Click finish. And now we have the same data available for us over here in a table. That we can look at it this way. Okay. You can, of course, customize the table in any way you want. For example, maybe we'll take, and instead of just showing you this in numbers like that, we can, for example, take and let's look at the recovered number as a little bar over here. We'll set it between, let's say, 1 million, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. How many zeros do I have here? One more, I think. Okay. And we will be able to see the statistics over here. Maybe progress bar is actually not the right thing to have here. Maybe we want to have, instead of a progress bar, a status meter. I think that would be a better representation. A little bit better to see that way. Yeah. And then you can, again, set the values, set the steps here. Okay, and even choose, for example, the coloring for this one. Okay, so we got our little statistic system giving us information about the number of cases. We can see actually there's more than 1 million. So let's do it 4 million as the top, and we can see it this way. All right. So this is me building the application on top of some REST service coming from somewhere. Let's see now how would I do it if I have my own data. For example, maybe I have some data about doctors that is inside an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, and I want to load this into the system. So I can create my own business object here, okay, called doctors, for example, and define a structure. I can also take a little shortcut and use our data manager to import data from an Excel spreadsheet. So you'll see one of the options that is going to appear here is to import business object from an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to go over to my desktop, pick up an Excel spreadsheet called doctors, and bring it over. This loads the data into Visual Builder. Visual Builder then parses the file. It sees that there are 3 data sheets in there about employees, department, and locations, and it's going to create parallel tables in a database with those fields in each table, which I can go over here and modify if I need to. And it's also going to load the data into those tables. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm taking data that was in an Excel spreadsheet, and I just created tables in an Oracle database in the cloud, loaded the tables with data, and exposed that data through a set of REST services that allow me to do all the CRUD operation on the data. Okay, so create, update, and delete. I can then further update the structure of my table. For example, I can add another field here. Let's call this one department. And we'll have a field that actually links between the employees and the department table. Okay, I can add another field here called to indicate whether this is an emergency doctor. Okay, so have a Boolean field. So I can basically modify the fields over here. Right now, they won't have any data in those new fields over here, but all the rest of the data is in here. So now I can go over and let's go back to my web application. Okay. I'm working on this flow here. I worked on the statistics. Let's work on the doctors page. And we're going to design this section of our application. Okay, we'll do something very similar. We can basically take some layout components and put them on the page. So let's pick up, for example, a panel component, put it here, and then we can resize this a little bit. Actually, we don't need this, so we can hide this. We can put another panel next to it. We're going to pick up a UI component. So let's pick up a list component, or actually, let's stick with the table for now. Table. We'll pick up a table and put it here. Let's pick up, for example, another chart component and put it over here. Again, resize this. Maybe set this chart to be horizontal instead of vertical, like that. And then we can bind the same way that we bounded to some random REST service. Now I can bind it to my business object that I defined before. I can define which fields I want to show. I want to show the picture, the name, and the name of the department that each doctor is working in. Over here, picture should actually be the image of the doctor, like that. Finish, and this would give me this information in a table. I can also look again at the structure of my page. We also have a bar chart, so we can click on the chart and add data to this chart. Again, from the employees, we can say we want to show the salary for each employee. Okay, and we get this set of data. And this is how easy it is to go over and create this interface. Now, again, it's not just for fetching data. We can also add, for example, the ability to edit the details of a doctor. So we can choose which fields we want to show here. Let's add the emergency, the email, which department they are in, maybe which country they are in. Click finish. And this would basically create for me an edit page for editing the data about the employee. Now, one of the nice things in my application is that I can actually go into live mode and interact with it. I can pick up, for example, Jane, click edit employee, and this would take me into the page where I edit data about an employee. Now, what I can do here is I can switch between live mode and design mode. So I can go back into design mode, and now I can modify this page. For example, I can take an avatar component and put it up here at the top, make it a little bigger, and then hook it up to the data from the employee about their picture. And now I have the picture of the employee. And then maybe I don't need this field, so I can remove it. Okay, and maybe I can say, okay, in my form, I want to have 2 columns. Okay, so I have my columns arranged like that. I can very easily reorganize the fields in my page. If I want the switch to be over here, I can just move it here. I can also move things just by dragging and dropping them over here from one place to the other. Okay. And now I'm actually ready to run my little application. I can click run. This actually takes my application and hosts it for me. Okay. And I'll get a URL where I can test my little application. Front page, I get data about COVID cases. Doctors page, okay. I get to work with my set of data for my database. Okay. Again, this was in Excel a couple of minutes ago, and now I can actually go click on Shelly, for example, go and edit the data for Shelly, indicate she's an emergency doctor, pick up from the relationship which department she's working in, and save the data. This would take it back and will show me the results over here. Okay. So again, we've been developing for about 10-15 minutes, and you can see a complete application meshing up data from multiple places, from my own database, from some REST services, all in a very nice web interface that is, by the way, responsive. So if I go small, you can see this is going to go down over here. I'll have my little menu up here. So we have a responsive UI for your application. Now, one of the things to note is that not only can we create web application, we can also create mobile application. And the distinction is that our mobile applications are actually going to run on your mobile device. It's not going to be a web application that you're accessing by going on your mobile device to a browser and typing URL. Rather, it's going to be either an on-device application that you get from an app store, okay, like the Google Store or the iTunes Store, or potentially a progressive web app, which is distributed onto your device. Okay, so let's create very quickly a mobile application here. We'll call it a little COVID application. Again, we'll just do the doctor's part here, but you can do others later on. And we'll do the others. Okay, and we'll create our first page with a list of doctors. Okay, and we'll use the same business object. So one of the nice things here is if I created a business object in one application, I can use it in other applications as well. Okay, so I'll be taken again into my visual editor. This time I'm working on a font size, so I can pretty much do the same thing, but a smaller scale of layout. Okay, so let's do this type of layout for doctors. We want to see the picture, the name, their salary, and maybe whether they are an emergency doctor or not. A picture, we want this to be an image of the doctor. Next finish, this would take this and show me information about the doctors over here. Similarly to what we did before, we can also add an edit page over here. Okay, so we'll do an edit page, allowing you to update the name and let's say the emergency and the department and the salary of each one of those doctors. Okay. So again, very easy way to develop an application that is aimed at a mobile device. Now, what I want to do here is I want to actually show you some of the things that happen on a mobile device. And to do that, I'm actually going to ask you guys to get your phones ready, okay? Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my mobile application and I'm going to allow it to be invoked by anyone. Okay, so I'm allowing anonymous access. This is a point to mention here that this is also the place where you can define security on the application. You can actually require, of course, specific users login. You can define roles inside the application and restrict who can do what in the application based on role. There's a whole security layer over here. The other thing I'm doing here is I'm saying I want to distribute my application as a progressive web application. Progressive web applications are applications that download to your device. They can work offline. They can use your device features and do things in there. Okay. And then the other thing I'm going to do is for my business objects, I'm going to define security settings, and I'm going to allow anonymous users to actually look at the data for employees and also update the data. Okay. Oh, there's one thing I haven't shown you yet, which is how do you add business logic to an application? Okay, so far we just messed up with the UI and created default functionality, but you can also, of course, add your own business logic. Okay, and we do it in a very nice way. So I'm going to show you again. I'm going to switch this for a live mode for a second. I'll get a list of doctors. I can swipe to the left, click to edit. This would take me into the edit page. And let's modify this page a little bit and show you how you add business logic. Okay, and we'll talk about some of the other things that go into an application here. So I'm going to take into my application, I'm going to drop a link down here. Okay, we'll call this where am I? Okay, and then we're going to also add another text item over here. So let's pick up an input text component. This one, put it down here, and we'll tie this one to a new variable in our application. So from here, we'll create a variable. We'll call this one location. Okay, so you're on a mobile device, you want to know exactly where you are in the world. And in order to do that, you want to define what happens when I click the where am I. We have an event-driven architecture. So when I click, I can define an event, a click event. And over here, I can do various things. I can, for example, go over and call some REST REST service. Okay, one of the things I can do here is I can get my current location. Okay, this is using the device location, and it's going to return that location, which I then want to assign, okay, if I'm successful, to a variable. We created a variable over here, we called it location. And over here, I can see the results from the get location, which includes the coordinates. So I want to know the latitude and the longitude over here. Let's add a little space between them, like that. This is how I assign a value to a variable. I can do other things here. For example, I can say, you know what, I actually need to also take a picture of where I am. So I'm going to invoke the camera over here and take a picture. Okay, this can be a picture or a video, depending on what you want to do. So this is how you define business logic. Again, you can bring in here a lot of functionality, if then else, loops, call JavaScript code if you need to, things like that. Again, very easy, very declarative. All right, let's run our little application. It's going to run first in an emulator. And while it's running, I'm going to also ask it to build my application using my development data. Okay, so what I want you to do is take your phone and open up your camera on your phone. And in a minute, you're going to see over here on the right side, you're going to see a QR code. Okay, and when you see this QR code appear, feel free to scan it with your camera. Okay, I might need to do just a quick refresh here to the browser. And when you scan it with your camera, it would actually direct you into the application. And if you're in an Android phone, it's going to prompt you and say, do you want to add it to your homepage? Feel free to do it. This would add an icon to your homepage. You can remove it later. If you're on an iOS device, you can do this by going to the share menu and choose add to homepage. Okay. So while I'm doing the demo here, you can feel free to scan it over here and get it to work on your device. I can basically go over, click on an employee or on a doctor, indicate which department they are in, update their salary, click the where I am, which asks me, are you allowing me to access my current location? It's going to get my current location and show the information over here, the exact coordinates of where you are. And you can try tap on your device. So this was a quick demonstration of how you develop an application with Visual Builder. Again, everything at the end of the day is source over here that you can directly access. All your pages have the HTML behind them. I'll go to one of the pages here, to the Docstores page, and I'll expand it. You'll see that we have the HTML file, the JavaScript file, the JSON file. Everything is managed through Git. You have all your files over here, and you can actually do all the Git operations from here, commit, push, and things like that. And at the end of the day, you can take your application, publish it over here for other people to use. Okay. In about 5 more minutes, let's come back to the slides. One of the questions on the forum was, so how is Visual Builder different than other tools? Okay, that you might be familiar with, maybe Oracle Forms, maybe ADF, maybe Apex, maybe some other tools that you're familiar with that are all based on building applications faster. So the first thing to understand is that Visual Builder is a tool for developing JavaScript, HTML5, and REST-based user interfaces using those languages. Okay, in terms of the language that you need, if you want to write some business logic behind the button beyond the declarative feature, if you need to write an if then else, a loop or something like that, you would use JavaScript over here. And we have a JavaScript aware code editor in there. The other difference is that this is a client-centric tool. Okay, what you're building here is actually running inside the browser, leveraging the power of the browser, and it talks using REST to the backend. So what you're building here is the front end that leverages the full power of your browser or on your mobile device. That's the other thing that is nice here. The fact that we connect to any REST service, this is another thing to know about our architecture. We have built-in adapters, again, to the Oracle SaaS, to Oracle Integration Cloud, and we can bring in any REST service and use it over here, including defining various types of authentication types to those REST services using various methodologies. We do business logic in a visual way. That's basically the diagram that you saw me. When I click on a button, I can visually define what I'm doing there. It makes it a lot easier for people to understand what is going on when they maintain the application. They don't need to read through your code. They actually look at the picture, which is much clearer. We also, by the way, are able to create test-driven development and tests for your business logic in a declarative way. Another difference compared to other tools is that we're a white box tool. You have direct access to the code and you can modify the code directly. We don't hide the code from you. If you feel comfortable doing changes in the code, you can easily do it over here. Another thing is our integration with a full Git-based version management, allowing development in big teams with multiple developers sharing the same project, working in branches, merging code, things like that, and then automating the whole CI/CD for a Visual Builder application. Another nice thing is that we're not just doing web application and responsive web, we're also doing and packaging applications for mobile devices, both progressive web apps and on-device mobile apps. Okay, and we do the work for you. You just tell us, for example, the certificate for your iOS device, and we'll create the IPA file or APK file that you can then upload to the store. We have built-in, again, integration with SaaS backends, with Oracle Integration Cloud. In fact, if you have Oracle Integration Cloud, Visual Builder is part of Oracle Integration Cloud built in there. We also have very good integration with Oracle Process Cloud. And we have integration with other parts of the Oracle ecosystem through our component exchange. Things like the Oracle Policy Automation has a component. The Oracle the Oracle Content and Experience showed you that component. And very soon you'll see the Oracle Analytic Cloud with their components that you can integrate into our interface. Okay. As I mentioned, Visual Builder, we just covered this part of our work today, the visual development. We created business object that store data in a database. We connected in a secure way to REST services, and we hosted the app. So we covered that part. This is also integrated, again, with task tracking, agile management, Wiki, Git, CI/CD. All of this is parts of our Visual Builder Studio. Simply don't have time today to cover this, but there's a bunch of demos online that you can see on YouTube of Visual Builder Studio and how the full development spectrum works. So to summarize our key points today, Visual Builder is all about simplifying how you build modern user interfaces. Using the latest technology, JavaScript-based UI development, and connecting to any REST service in the backend. We do web, we do mobile, we mesh up your data with data from existing systems, and we provide you with a complete end-to-end development and hosting platform for your application. What we would love you to do is actually give it a try. If you have an Oracle a cloud trial environment, you can go over and spin up a Visual Builder instance, try it out for 30 days, build your own applications, run them on your mobile device, see how you like the development experience. As you saw, it's very easy to get started. We have a bunch of tutorial online that would get you started as well, and a bunch of videos to help you, and the forum if you have any technical questions. That being said, if you have any other questions right now, please post them on the Q&A and I would try to answer them.
Thank you so much, Shay. Looks like it's not questions coming through at the moment. I want to remind everyone that the replay of this session will be available in the conference website for 2 weeks from now. And any questions can be posted over there in dedicated page of the replay also. And Shay will be notified every time a question is done on his sessions. And of course, he'll be able to reply on his own convenience. Yep, looks like no more questions are coming from Q&A, Shay. Thank you so much for your amazing session. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with the community, and looking forward to meet everyone face-to-face when possible. And of course, keep safe, be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.